Hey guys, welcome. Oh, well, that really kind of sucked.
Let it roll with it.
I'm about to do the count. The countdown is what threw me. I got excited by the countdown.
I
and
saw
all
it. I
that.
was like, that's a cool countdown.
Yeah, there's this countdown coming. I wasn't used to it, and I'm like, oh, here it comes. There's going to be a countdown. 2, 1. Hey guys, let's listen. Okay, this is why every time we start, I'm laughing. You know, pull up the chair at the fire and look at my beard.
Pour me some black coffee.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start all over again. All right, okay.
All right.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Not Your Average Man. I'm Chris. I'm here with Brad, and we are so glad that you're here with us. We do want this to be something that is a group thing. It's a group project, and Brad and I are doing all the work.
Yeah, I'm not used to that. So could you guys jump in?
Yeah, that is. We need you. This is a call not only to be better than your average man, but to lend us a hand.
Yeah.
And so we do want to hear we want your emails. We want to hear from you. Email at notyouraverage.man.com. Certainly drop us a review on your favorite podcast platform, wherever you're listening to us. And we've got some of those reviews. We thank you all for those who have given us a review. Hit us up with 5 stars. This is how we get the word out to other guys, to other men, right? So this is how it pushes us out. By the time that you're listening to this, we should be on YouTube. So you could even be watching this on YouTube. I don't know. And so, drop us a comment there. Let us know what's on your mind. Let us know how we can help you, the struggles, the thoughts, the questions. Who knows? We might even be like hitting up we could do a through this thing, this wonderful internet thing. We could actually set up where Brad and I do it live, and you all can be in the audience asking live questions. And so if that's something that you want, let us know. I haven't told Brad that yet. So Brad just got...
Yeah, this is brand new. It's all right.
Just got volunteered.
I'm real big on if I get asked a question and I'm like, I don't know it, I just say that. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Next question. Sorry.
Which is cool. Yeah. Next. We'll get back to you on that.
We're going to get back to you on that one.
But you know what? That's look, because we're trying to be real. I mean, that's the thing. And in fact, I've got let me read one of the reviews we got it from, was it Purposeful Man? Anyway, you dropped us a review. Wait, do you know how to pronounce that? I thought it was supposed to be Purposeful Man, but it seems like
it's supposed to be purposeful, but I don't know.
They're playing with the words a little. Anyway,
yeah.
Purposeful Man. I'll say it real fast. I'll do it. Purposeful Man. Thanks a lot for giving us a review. Thanks for the 5 stars. They said, love this podcast and the honesty of the men hosting. Waiting for the next. Guys, we appreciate this. We love this.
Yes.
Please keep hitting us up, and we'll keep giving you more episodes. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So that was that was my preamble. So I guess let's get to it. We've as you all have known by now, unless this is the first time you're listening to us, Brad and I both have our own marriage ministries that we coach couples through, and we work with them. And so there's a lot of things that we're getting from men that we work with over there in those arenas that we're really trying to, jump in front of, right? How can we help get the word out and help you all be better than average, right? Not just to have this mediocre attitude. If you're in, in Christ, a Christ follower, disciple, believer, whatever, we're supposed to be more. And we've talked about in the other episodes. And so, one of the things we want to talk about is this idea that we get from some of the guys that we see about how they feel underappreciated. They're unseen, underappreciated, and it really is demotivating for them. Yeah. Right, kind of just makes them not want to engage in the marriage, to push, to keep trying. Why do I try if this isn't working, or if I'm not getting the appreciation for it? Then I'm not going to want to do it. But the challenge is, or that's not even the challenge. The problem is, and wow, this is going to come out really harsh, and just know this is with love. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's God's not going, oh, is you don't, are you, I was going to get really harsh. God's not asking for you to do that if you're getting the applause of man, right?
So
He's called us
let me jump in
to do
real fast.
Oh yeah,
'Cause
jump.
What you're just saying, it's perfect. So Galatians 1:10 says, I'm going to pull it up so I don't misquote it, but it's one of my favorite verses, and it's exactly what you just said. Galatians 1:10. Obviously, I'm not trying to win the approval of people, but of God. If pleasing people were my goal, I would not be Christ's servant. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And that's where you're getting at, right? Like underappreciated.
Oh, yeah.
Who's underappreciating you? People are underappreciating you. So while you were talking, I'm thinking of this in my head, and I'm like, maybe I should just talk about it, because I don't like to talk about what I do for a living, because it's not what defines me. And we've gone over, we have a past episode on identity, and I'm defined through Christ, and that's what I worry about. That's what I want. That's my goal, right? But what I do for a living, so I'm part of like special operations unit, and we do everything, throughout the United States and sometimes overseas. What I'm getting at is like all the stuff we do, we never get thanked. It's never front page news. It's never like, even in statistic wise, right? Like even in like papers that come out, like files and stuff, it's not like, oh, this unit did X or so-and-so did X. Like it's not that at all. And we like that. That's what we do, right? We don't want, we're not looking for affirmation from others, and my team's not, we're not like all Christ followers or anything like that. So I'm not going to say like we're looking for affirmation for Christ, but we're not looking for affirmation from others. We want the work, and we want to, and we know we could do it well. And so we do it well. And then we come home, whether someone says good job or not, and so feeling underappreciated, those feelings are real. You feel unseen, especially in a marriage, right? Like your wife,
right?
Maybe you don't feel like you're seen by your wife. You're underappreciated by your wife. I'm not saying those aren't serious things, but they're things that you can get through. And also they're things that there's underlining issues beyond that. Right. So being underappreciated, it sucks. I'm not going to say like, oh, I'm underappreciated and I love it. No, I want to be appreciated. But ultimately though, I am a Galatians 1:10. Like that's ultimately what I do. Right. I'm going to please Christ.
Right.
If that steps on people's toes, that's okay. I'm not out to offend people or to purposefully, make people mad or do these things, but I'm doing what Christ wants me to do. I'm leading my family well. The byproduct of that stuff is your family starts to appreciate you. Your coworkers start to appreciate, the byproduct. I feel like a broken record, because a lot of things I say, even during like coaching sessions, I'm like, hey man, if you would just prioritize God above all else, above your career, above all else, all these things will start to fall in place. Not saying you don't have to work for those things, but they're all going to start falling in place. And that it's true with everything.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, isn't that his plan? Seek first the kingdom of God, and then all of these things shall be handed to you. I mean, because that's where things usually fall apart. When we're seeking to build our own kingdom, where we're focusing on ourselves and on what we want and how it impacts us, and not taking into consideration how it's impacting the kingdom, which is others focused, which is, God's focused, who, if you're doing God's work, he will equip you for that. When you're doing your own work, well, you're running on your own batteries.
Yeah.
So,
and that's scary.
So if you're exhausted and worn out, well, that could be you're focusing on the wrong thing in the wrong direction. But I was thinking about what you're saying. Don't hear what we're not saying. Nobody likes to be unappreciated, and we certainly don't want to be like, I don't know, talked down or discounted about what we do. Like, oh, you don't do anything, or what you do doesn't matter. Goodness, that is absolutely unmotivating. And if that's, the environment you walk into at a job, so to speak, even though that's not your identity, it'll be hard to keep going back there. It's kind of like
Absolutely.
if they stop appreciating you with money, that paycheck. Yeah,
when
you'll only
my job
stick around
stops
for so
paying me,
long.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not going in anymore.
Yeah. It's a certain thing to take pride out of what you do. but I need electricity. I've grown accustomed to going to the bathroom indoors.
Memories I make they don't pay the mortgage. So
No, that's true. The stories I have won't feed the kids.
No, exactly. No,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, what was one of the things you were saying too, is if you're doing what God called you to do, if you're taking pride in that work, right? If you're focusing on doing the right things for the right reasons and pushing through that's, in my mind, what I see as a result is, even if people don't necessarily agree or understand, they'll still respect you. They'll respect your character. They'll respect that you walk the talk.
Absolutely. I like that because, excuse me, because I think there's a lot of men that are scared to step into their calling, right? So if you're a Christ follower, we're all called to one specific thing, and that's the Great Commission, right? Share the gospel.
Yep.
Like everyone's a Christ follower. Like that is your responsibility. You should be doing that. Then there's like other stuff that you're called to do, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're called to, there's different people, like God puts it in you, right? If you're a rocket scientist, like God's made you want to do that, right? Yeah. I don't know why I thought of rocket science, but
my son-in-law probably.
Oh, there you go. Exactly. God's made you to do that. Like that's what you're wired to do. I'm not wired to do rocket science at all. Like that's not my wiring. But that's also what I'm getting at is that's the other calling too, right? Like once you've decided to follow Christ, you should be sharing the gospel. You should be sharing Christ with everyone. That's a calling.
Yeah. Does it have to be the dude on the corner? We talked about that. We have to be handing out tracts. But that should still be in our minds. How are we sharing Christ through the way we're talking, the way we're interacting, what we're saying and not saying, how we're persevering. I'm going to take this off, so I apologize. Hold that thought. So back in 2002, when the dot bomb hit and all that, and I got laid off from the day job, and it was 6 months. 6 months without a job. We moved to a different state before actually having a job. No friends, no family. It was really, and I'll share this at some point in time because I think it's a great God story, because God kind of just said, move, don't worry about the job. And it turned out if I didn't move, I wouldn't have gotten the job. So that's kind of a cool thing. And the fact that moved from Florida to the Carolinas really was a huge blessing to the whole family, to, it's just blessing upon blessing. But the point being was, when I moved up here and got involved in church, got involved in a group, and the way that I walked through that, the way that I didn't let my attitude be affected, it was hard not to. And honestly, I'll be honest, after I did get the job and get paychecks again and all that, and things were going, I actually felt really stupid's the wrong word. I felt really bad about all the times when I had doubt and where I did have struggles and didn't take advantage kind of at the time. So all that to say, I ended up getting laid off again 2 years later. And that time I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take a trip. I wasn't being flippant, but I'm going to take a trip here. And just when people were like in my, Sunday school class, they're like, what, you got laid off? And I'm like, yeah, no, but it's no big deal. And you're just talking, and they're like, oh, but sure. And then one of my buddies gets laid off like a year later. And he said, because I saw you and how you went through it, I was able to not freak out. And I was able just to have a peace during that time until I had gotten another job. And it was because seeing the way that I reflected Christ through me, that let the peace of God be part of, and that contentment. I'm not saying that there wasn't concerns and all that. It wasn't superhuman, but it was as a fact of I'm going to trust that God's the provider and do what he asked me to do despite circumstances, and trust that when he says, seek first the kingdom and all these things will be handed to you, that he means it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That all the stuff he says that he means.
Yeah. And you don't have any idea. So you might, everyone listen, you might feel unappreciated. You might feel unseen. You might feel all these things, but you have no idea who's watching you.
Oh,
you have no idea. Look at your story. That was a year later. Later. And that guy, during that year, he had a job. So he saw you, the way you reacted, and was such an impression on him. A year later, that helped him. Yeah. You have no idea who's watching. Someone's always watching. You might feel like you're, what are you, like Casper the Ghost, right? But so I'm dating myself, huh? But
sure.
Someone's always watching you. Always. I mean, and it's so that story is powerful in and of itself, just because the way you react to something and someone sees that, and one, you're not, I could venture to say that someone that's not a Christ follower, doesn't have that reassurance of God, wouldn't necessarily act the same way, right? Wouldn't have that same, not flippant attitude, but just that same assurance of, hey, God called me to here. I did it. I got a job. Now I don't have a job, but God's called me here. And, there's a reason why I'm here, right? And so I'm going to be okay. Of course, you don't just sit back and God will do something. You can even work for it.
I'm gonna go out by the pool.
Yeah, someone's gonna come up to me and hire me. It's not a big deal. No, but I would venture to say, if you're not a Christ follower and something like that happened, you might be like, "Oh, okay, this is okay. This is okay." But there's a little voice inside you that's a little bit panic, right? A little bit of panic, some anxiety. Unless you are just so chilled out that nothing bothers you, then that's an issue too. But that's for a different. That's a different.
That's a different one. Yeah.
Yeah. But no,
we call it if you're disconnected and detached from life.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's a problem. No, I love that story though. I really do, because I mean, I would even say God had so many big plans for you when you moved and where you're at now, but that could have definitely been one of the reasons why he sent you over there. That could have been one of the reasons why you lost your job. You don't know, right? You don't know. We see one little tiny puzzle piece of God's plan for our life. We never see the whole puzzle, and we won't see the whole puzzle. It's on this side of heaven for sure. But man, that could have been one of the things that was this guy.
No, I love that. I love that idea, that one puzzle piece, because that's all we see, where it's like a puzzle that's face down and scrambled around, and we only get to see one piece flipping here and there, and they don't necessarily even connect with each other. And I love that analogy, because you talked about, we work with, married people. But there are a lot of husbands who are, well, I'm doing this and I work all this time, and my wife doesn't. It's underappreciated. She doesn't care that I work all that, because all she complains is how the stuff that I don't do and all that. Look, there's a lot of guys out there, a lot of dudes out there who are I don't necessarily need the applause. I don't necessarily need the appreciation. It's just when you start to tell me that I don't do stuff, then I've got my laundry list. Yeah. And I talked about that on the episode of being the pleaser or the passive husband. There's a reason I got this laundry list, or I'm defensive, that I'm whipping that out. But for the most part, I think a lot of guys aren't looking to every time they do something like their wives walking behind them going, "Good job with the dishes, dear," or "Oh, I'm so glad you're playing with your children," or that's. I don't think that's.
You're being a father.
Yeah. So I'm expecting most. Right, well, most guys are thinking, but if the wives start saying like, "Well, you don't ever spend time with the kids," well, then yeah, we start rattling out. Okay, well, I just did all this stuff and start going. So that's where you feel unseen and underappreciated. But we're still called to do that. It doesn't matter how much they're noticing how much, because we only have a puzzle piece that we're aware of. We don't know how that's going to connect to any of the other things. We don't know how maybe we keep doing this stuff that we're called, and just sticking with the wife example, how we keep loving our wives as Christ loved the church. If we keep giving ourselves sacrificially, if we keep loving our wives, like Ephesians 5:33 says, as ourselves, if we, like Romans 12:15 talks about, if our enemy is hungry, give them something to drink. If they're thirsty, give them something to eat. Wait, flip that. If they're hungry, give them something to eat. If they're thirsty, something to drink.
Keep them on their toes.
Right. And Jesus saying, yeah, I know. I know. You might be hungry, but here's a soda.
But here's some water.
Here's some water. But oh, my throat's so dry. Well, I have a steak.
Here's a sandwich.
Yeah. But but we don't know what's that's gonna do to them. That idea, that service, and being a servanthood, and I'm not saying be a doormat. Go back and listen to A Passive Husband if that's what you're hearing. Yeah. But I'm just saying how we are following our callings. How we are, and if you don't know what your calling is, because not everybody's a rocket scientist or special ops or coach, right? That kind of stuff. We all have a role to play, and it's a part of a piece that we may or may not understand how it plays a part. But if we don't do it, we're going to miss a blessing, because that's what God gave us to do, and we're going to adversely affect somebody else's blessing, somebody else's growth, somebody else's progress, because we're failing to still do our stuff without getting the proper applause from man, the proper feedback. I was writing down some notes when you were talking about, because I was thinking, what am I even doing this for? When I'm doing something, what am I even doing this for? Am I doing it for the applause of man? Am I doing it for my wife to say good job? Am I doing it for the boss to recognize me, or to get into a newspaper and say, "Oh yeah, this team was instrumental at taking care of this situation," or that kind of a thing? Or am I doing it because it's what I'm called to do? Right? Am I taking a sense of satisfaction in knowing that one day God's going to say, "Well done, good and faithful one"? That that I'm playing a part in God's plan. I'm doing my piece in God's puzzle. That's going to because God works all things for good. Right? It doesn't necessarily mean that everything's going to be good in our lives. It just means that God's will is good and perfect, that it's going to all work out for good. But like any story, if it's just all, they were in this fun place and they just had fun all the time and they just didn't, and no one ever argued, you're not gonna watch that read that story. You're not gonna watch that movie. Just mention next Mission Impossible. Nobody stole anything. No secrets were lost. They just sat in the office.
Yeah, they just sat in the cube farm doing their thing. That's it. No, so I'm going to ask, and why? So I think we've had episode, like you did an episode on Passive Husband. I talked about insecurities.
Yeah,
I think that is why men don't step into their calling because of
insecurities?
Those two things. Both, right? Like if you're passive. If you're overly passive, because I think there's times where I'm passive, kind of read the room, and I'm like, I don't want to be too manly right now. I'm going to be passive.
I don't want to overwhelm the space with my testosterone.
Yeah, exactly. No, but if you're overly passive, or if you're overly insecure, or if you're dealing with insecurities, then maybe you're not stepping into your calling as a husband. Maybe you're not stepping into your calling as a Christ follower, where God wants you to share the gospel. Those are two like blanket callings, right?
Yeah.
Like those are, because you get specific. I mean, I look at my life, and we were talking about this before we started recording. Like, God has called me and my wife to start this ministry. And we know that because we've seen how he's prepared us, not just through the trial that we went through, but we've seen how he's prepared us through little things that we've done, and all of a sudden rolling out our ministry and rolling out coaching. And what we were talking about before our episode started, when we were prepping for this, I was like, I get on a coaching call, and before every coaching call, I pray. And well before that, but even right before it, I pray. And, I've been praying for the guy, the couple, whatever it is. But every time I get on a coaching call, I question myself. What am I doing here? Like, who am I? Kind of deal, right? But what I get checked on is, it's not me. It's God using me to speak to others, right? Like one big thing I always pray is that I don't say the wrong thing. Like, God, speak through me. If this guy needs to hear X, then I want it to come from you. I never want it to be what Brad thinks is best, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, even stepping into that calling, that's a specific calling that we stepped into, and it's scary. And I think of it also like along the lines of the fatherhood, or leading your household as a husband, even if you feel unappreciated, even if you feel unseen. Like, that could be a scary calling to step into, because you're taking on a lot of responsibility.
Sure.
And you need to own it, right? God has called you to do this. You need to own it, right? And so I just was thinking in my head, I'm like, man, why don't people, men specifically, right? Why aren't they stepping into what they're called? Why aren't they? It has to come back to insecurities and passivity, right? I mean, at some level, I agree.
I think you're definitely onto something.
Right. I mean, I don't know. It's the reason why that even brought up. So I'm not even going to say it's like a Brad idea. Like, I'm not the genius. I mean, I thought of it, I was thinking about it as stewing in my brain for a while. I sent you this screenshot, and I love this. And it talks about calling, and it's from Mike Winger. If you guys haven't hit up Mike Winger, like, Google him.
You got to listen to this
YouTube,
guy.
Yeah, podcast, everything. His calling is what he's doing right now. Like, he has an understanding. He goes through. It's great. He doesn't talk over your head, so don't get crazy. Don't get scared. But because that
don't be insecure.
Some people, don't be insecure. Listen to him. He doesn't know you're listening. So he does do lives though. So if he's doing a live, he might know. No,
and Mike Winger, if he happens to listen to this podcast and you want to be a guest, just hit us up. We'll gladly have you on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Reach out like anyone else would. All right.
slide into our DMs.
Yeah, please. No, but for real, Mike, if you're listening. All right. So, anyway.
Yeah, which I'm sure you are in all your free time.
Yeah, exactly. I stole this from him because I was like, wow, you had put down a bunch of stuff about being called and all these things, and then I had written some stuff out. But then I saw this thing from Mike Winger, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Never lower your calling to match your compromises. And I let that sit there, and I was like, okay, guys that are insecure, maybe they are, if you talk to them and you're like, are you stepping into your, maybe they're like, yeah, I am stepping out, but it's like, sounds like a question mark, right? Like, I am question mark.
I'm definitely am.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, you are, but did you lower it because you're compromising, right? Because you're matching your compromises, which your compromises, and he talks about this in the post he wrote. He talks about the insecurities and things people deal with. Or if you feel, unseen. All these things underappreciated. All these things play into like, okay, woe is me. I'm not, I'm not strong enough. And so I'm going to be the husband that God has called me to be ish. Right? Like God's called me to be the husband, but I'm going to kind of do it ish. Like I'm going to be, I'm doing it, but not really, because I'm matching I'm compromising myself, right? Like I'm telling, basically I'm telling, oh no, that's cool that you called me to that, but I can't do that. Like I can't do it like you want me to do it. Like how arrogant is that? Like think about that, right? The creator of the universe is like, Brad, you're going to do that. And I'm like, no, I'm not good at that. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a better way to do it. Well, and here's the really odd thing is you wouldn't be alone. Because think about Moses burning in the burning bush, right? What does Moses say? I'm not a good speaker. You don't want me. Yeah. I killed an Egyptian. People know that. I have a stutter. I'm not a good speaker. You should pick somebody else. You should really find somebody else. And then finally, God, because his grace and mercy, I don't want to say God conceded, but said, I'll send your brother with you, to help you out. So that way you'll have that little confidence. But I love that idea. Well, even we could go on, right? Gilead and Judges. Oh, gosh, it's like, hey, mighty warrior, you're called to do this. And he's, who? Who, me? Well, yeah, because he was hiding at the time, right? Because he tried to make some food and, because he didn't want to get taken. And then God, prove yourself that this way by, making the grass dewy and then my thing not dewy. Oh, you did that. Okay, well, make this dewy and the grass not dewy. Oh, you did that. Oh. But it is.
I want you to do something else.
Yeah. Is there another hoop you'll jump through? But it is, right? It's our own fears, because I guess I was thinking our own insecurities about, is God really who he says he is in our lives? Mm-hmm. Are we believing his promises? Are we believing that he means what he says? That like if he calls us someplace, if he leads us there, there's a song. Where you lead me, I know you won't leave me. I mean, it's just there's purpose and plan. So do we believe that? Or do we think that, okay, well, I got to do most of it and then God might come through every now and then? I don't know. I don't want to get that might be a whole other episode. I mean, be taking us down a rabbit hole. But it seems like that kind of, it might be where it's like, if we don't believe that God is who he is, who he says he is, and we don't believe that what he says is true, then I guess how are we going to believe what he says about us is true? That we are beloved, that we are equipped, that we are made to be co-heirs, that we have authority, that we do have a purpose and a belonging, and all those things that we long for, and we try to find them in other ways in this world. If we don't buy it, if we're not completely sold out, and I'm not saying you have to go from 0 to 100. I'm just saying if we're not pushing it into that direction, and every time we feel a pushback, we're not gently pushing back and going, okay, well, where's that pushback coming from? Then I just think we're just going to fall victim to our insecurities. We're going to fall victim to this watering down our calling, like our close friend Mike Winger was saying. We're going to lower our calling to something that matches our own compromises, to matches what we think we can accomplish. What we think, well, God, you're asking me to do this big thing, but I think I can do this. I think I can do this 20%, and that's what I'll focus on, and not this 100% where I have to depend on you, or it won't happen.
Oh, I love it. I mean, think about, this is the confidence I want to strive for. David and Goliath. That's the confidence I want to strive for, right? Like, think now, we're talking about calling. We're talking about being unseen, unappreciated, like David, a shepherd. All his brothers are on the front line battling all the Philistines. And David runs up there to, bring food? Well, I can't even remember now.
Yeah. He
That's
came to
horrible.
he's bringing his brother some food because that's
bring his brother's food, and he sees this giant of a man across this valley, and that man is mocking the Israelites. And David, a kid, a shepherd, right? Not like Arnold Schwarzenegger in some 1980s movie. No, he didn't look like that, right? He's just a shepherd boy. And he looks across the thing and he's like, why are you guys letting him talk like that?
Yeah.
Like, you are the chosen. You're God's chosen. Like, how dare that man speak to us like that? Like, that's the confidence. He was like, you don't talk to us like that. I'm going to go over there and deal with it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I'm going to take you out.
Yeah. Forget all these guys. Oh, King, your armor's too heavy. I don't need your armor. I got God, and I'm going to go kill this dude. And just that confidence of like, hey, so people, like men, you're listening to this, and you're like, I don't know if God's called me to be the true leader of my household. I don't know how God's called me to be a father. He's prepared you for such a time, right?
Yeah.
Think about David. David, shepherd, killing a lion, killing a bear, like doing these things to protect his sheep. You don't think that that was like training ground for this moment, right?
Yeah.
This moment. David shows up, but not only that, okay, so he's like, all right, yeah, I protect my sheep. Here I am. But what makes David mad is that this dirty giant is over there mocking God.
Oh, yeah.
That's what makes David mad. And that's what's like, all right, fine. None of you want to step up to the calling because someone else could have done it. Fine, I'm going to do it. And goes out there. And I mean, you can read the story, but
you shouldn't read it. If you don't,
you need to read it. Can you imagine?
Yeah, don't depend on what they said in Sunday school. It's much gorier. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so true. Can you imagine, though, David stepping into the battlefield, right? Stepping past that front line of soldiers with swords and weapons and all these things, and David has a slingshot, stepping in the battlefield. Can you imagine the laughter and the mockery that happened on the other side of that battlefield?
Oh, yeah.
Not just from the giant, from everyone, right? So everyone's basically laughing at David, and David's standing there with confidence. Not, I might kill you today. Like, not that. No. David's like, I'm going to kill you. Like, you shouldn't have done this. Like, God's with me. I'm going to kill you. Then I'm going to chop your head off.
I know.
With your own sword. Yeah.
No more Sunday school. It wasn't just I'm going to kill you. It's like you are going to be eaten by the birds. You'll be food by food for the birds. We're taking you out. It's
no. But when you read that story, like I'm challenging every man that's listening to it, go back and read that story and read it with the thought process of God is calling David to do that. And David being a boy, I'm sure David's human. I'm sure he had insecurities. I'm sure he had all these things, but he stepped into the place and just appalled, like, I mean, disgusted by what this giant's doing. And he's like, no, this has to stop. You don't mock God. You don't mock me. Everyone can laugh at me, but at the end of this, your head's going to be separated from your body. I'm going to be standing over it, and then the birds are going to eat you.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. And we win. And we win. And
we win.
And to even go deeper into that story, David does all that. Then, like that, I feel that what he did, that obedience of the calling of what David did, despite of everything that even the king's trying to give him armor. Like, you need to protect yourself. David's like, I can't do this. Like, all that prepared David for the life that he had, the other calling, right? Becoming
it was a vital piece.
Yes. Like, that's the stepping stone. So if you are never stepping into your calling for whatever reason, can you imagine what you're stealing from yourself, from your family, from other people around you, where God might want to put you, but you're never doing that first step, or you're half stepping, right? Well, you called me, but I'm going to lower it because I'm not good enough. God's like, I don't care.
I'm just going to negotiate with the giant. I think you can talk sense into him.
Yeah, let me go talk to that guy real quick.
But no, I mean, that's a great point. So I guess to bring it home, and for you guys that are listening, think about that. Think about what David, if he didn't follow through that piece, what it could have robbed the nation, and what you're not doing, what it could rob the people who are watching you, whether you think so or not. If you're married, your wife, your family, your kids, your legacy, what's going to happen to them, right? It will take it away. So I guess think about what is God's calling for you. While you're thinking about what his calling is for you, and if you've got a decent idea about that, think about, are you watering it down? Are you lowering the calling because of your own insecurities? And if so, then like we talked about last time, if you're not aware of your insecurities, the enemy is, and he's definitely going to use it for you. So you're either playing a part for God, or you're being played by the enemy. So you know what, we want obviously you to play a part for God. We want you to have an effect where that piece that you're playing is going to link up to other pieces, and that's going to have a mighty effect for God's overall plan and picture. Because we want you not to be mediocre. We don't want you to be watered down, and we don't want you just to have this insecurities that lower your calling. We want you to be better than your average man. See you next time.